Hello, hello, my beautiful friends. Happy Saturday. We are back again for another live. Today's going to be a fun conversation. I wanted to talk about something that is super fun to talk about, and that is building a life that you do not need a vacation from. Let me go ahead and go over to Instagram and go live because I sometimes forget to do that. I'm trying to be better at remembering that. So for all of my friends over on Instagram, today we're discussing building a life that you don't need an escape from. Basically, how do we create a life where we are actually excited to wake up in the morning? We are happy with either our job or our business or whatever it is that you're doing to give back, right? Because one thing is having a job and working a 9 to 5, and one thing is actually working in your passion, or at least doing something that you don't hate. Because there's a lot of people out there that have jobs and they're doing things that they absolutely do not like. And I think this is one of the worst, if not the worst thing that we can do, because your work takes so much of your life and your energy. And if you are giving all of your energy and time to something that you don't like, that is not good, because you're basically saying that your job is more important than you and your happiness. And I think that, at least for people who live here in the US, there's a lot of options that we have for jobs and job opportunities. And so the last thing we should do is sacrifice doing something that we hate just because we want money. So we're going to talk about today not just something that is talking about money and finances, but this is a huge part of it, right? But also, how can we build a life where we are able to overcome challenges and obstacles, but also be able to set ourselves up for success and actually move toward the things that we're wanting in our life, instead of being in a situation where we're unhappy with our life situation and we're just remaining stuck. Okay. So first step in this process, of course, is identifying exactly what does this life look like for you. What does your ideal life look like? And if you don't know what this looks like, if you haven't thought about this, that is not really a good thing. And let me tell you why. You're always going to move toward the vision that you have in your mind. So if you don't have a vision, if you don't know where you're going, if you don't know what you want, then other people are going to have an impact on where you go, because other people's life, people who have vision and know where they want to go, are going to be moving in that direction, and you're probably just going to go along with their current. So if you want to go in the direction of your goals and your dreams, one, you have to figure out exactly what that is. What do you want financially? How much money do you want to be making? And not just about money in terms of, oh yeah, I want to make $5,000 a month or 10K or whatever it is, but even deeper than that, go deeper. What exactly is it that you want to do? What are your talents? What are your skills? How can you give back? And basically, how can you use your God-given abilities and talents to make money? Because in this world, we have so much leverage with social media, with AI rising now. We have pretty much any situation, any talent, any skill set can be monetized. So there really is no excuse for us to do something that we absolutely despise, because you can build a life and do things that you actually enjoy and monetize. Maybe you're going to have to learn some new things. Maybe you're going to have to change your mindset. Maybe you're going to have to change your beliefs, but it is 100% possible and worth it, because life is short. Cliche as that sounds, we should be doing things that we actually enjoy every day. Of course, there's going to be things that we do that we don't love, right? In every business, there's going to be parts that you like and parts that you don't like. But every single day should not feel like survival. Every single day should not feel like you can't wait to go on vacation. Every single day shouldn't be an escape, trying to escape from your life. And this isn't just financial situations, right? I'm talking about everything about your life. If you are in a relationship trying to run from and escape from, that is not good. That is a red flag. If you are in a situation with your health where you're in pain and you feel terrible every single day, and so you're using food or drugs or whatever to medicate yourself, That is not good, right? How do we get ourselves to a place where we feel good, we're in good standing with our health, right? We have the energy, and we have good relationships around us. We have partners, friends, and communities that actually build us up, that we feel inspired by, that give us positive energy. And we have the financial resources to be able to live the life that we want to live, right? And yes, a lot of this may take some time and a process. Like I said, you have to learn and unlearn a lot of things about life, about maybe the things that you believed about business and money and all this stuff. But it is worth it if you really want to get yourself out of survival mode. And it's going to require getting uncomfortable, because anytime that you want to change your current situation, you're going to have to change your identity. And your body doesn't like to change your identity. It likes to keep you in the familiar place because it knows how to survive. So if you are in a situation where you're not making enough money, your body doesn't really care. All it cares about is that it knows how to survive there. So let's say you are living paycheck to paycheck. Your body doesn't say, oh my gosh, we need success. It doesn't care about success. Your subconscious doesn't care if you are making $1 million a month or if you're making $2,000 a month. What it cares is that it lines up with your identity and your belief systems. So if what you have in your subconscious is a set of belief systems that's keeping you in survival mode, then that is where you're going to stay. And you have to understand that when you are changing that, it's going to be uncomfortable, because it is your body's job to try to pull you back to the familiar, because that is your survival state. So that doesn't mean that it's impossible to change, but it does mean that you have to understand that being uncomfortable is part of the process, because there is going to be some friction, you could call it, when you're shifting from one identity, one experience of life into another one. And it makes it a lot easier to do this if you understand the rules of the game. And what do I mean by that? I'm talking about understanding how your mind works, understanding how belief systems and thoughts are at the root of every single thing that you are doing in your life. It is not action first. It is always going to be a thought first. Thought precedes action. So if you want to change your actions, if you want a different result in your life, then you must become aware of your thinking. So that's step number 1. Okay, let me go ahead and see if we have any questions here. I saw some comments coming in from YouTube. Just a reminder, guys, I'm only going to answer questions that are related to the topic that we're discussing today. Let's see. Hello. We have some people tuning in from other parts of the world. How awesome. Hello, everyone. Okay, so just some comments. People asking where you're from. From the US. From Utah. Let me go ahead and check Instagram, because right now I'm multi-streaming. So I will be checking different platforms just to see if people are leaving me some comments. Okay. So we have another question here. What's the topic? So today we're discussing how you can build a life, or how you can start building the life that you don't need a vacation from. In other words, how do we get ourselves out of survival mode to where we can actually start enjoying our life? Because I honestly think that there's so many people in this world right now, it's probably like 90%, it's a very high number, that are not actually living, they're surviving. And I don't even think that people sometimes know the difference. When I'm talking about living, I'm talking about having your health, having your energy, having good quality people in your life, and also having the finances and the resources to live the life that you want to live. Because we can argue this all day, but the facts are the facts. Money is a resource, and you need that in this world if you want options and opportunity, because that is going to give you more choices. Does money equal happiness? Absolutely not. But does money, or can money, take you out of survival? 100%. But here's another thing. There's a lot of rich people that still live in survival mode. So if you don't change your mindset and your belief systems, then you can make a ton of money and still live in a fear-based world. Because once again, our results can change, but if you don't change who you are, you're going to feel the same. But the goal always is to feel better, right? You want to feel happier. You want to have more peace in your life. You want to feel more energy, more happiness, more love, more connection. That's what everyone is seeking. And most people are looking for it in the external world, right? They think that if everything outside of them changes, then I will give myself permission to feel better. But what I'm recommending that you try is flipping the script. What if you decided that you're going to feel rich before you see the money in your bank account? What if you decide to feel healthy before you are healthy? And why do I say this? Because a lot of people think when I say this, I'm talking about woo-woo, just fairy dust manifestation, sit on the couch, wishful thinking. But here's what actually happens when you start to retrain your brain by feeling differently. In order to feel differently, you have to think differently, right? So if I'm constantly thinking all day long about how my body hurts, I don't like it, I feel overweight, I hate myself when I look in the mirror, I feel like I don't have energy, gosh, I'm so sick of this, why do I have to deal with this, right? All these negative thoughts. And this is what a lot of people are running on autopilot without even knowing it. It's just this negative self-talk constantly going on, like on repeat in our mind. But people don't understand that that story that you're telling yourself, that recording inside of your mind, is creating your experience of life. It doesn't seem that way, but I'll explain how. Your thoughts, right, create your beliefs. Because when you repeat any story in your mind, any way of thinking that you repeat becomes a belief. So you can repeat to yourself, I'm unhealthy, I feel terrible, I don't have any energy, I'm hurting, my body hurts. You're going to start to believe it. And it's not even going to become like, oh, I think this. It's going to be like, this is true, because now it's your belief. But you can also change that. You can also say, I am healthy, I feel good. I am healthy, I feel good, until that becomes a norm for you. So everything starts with your thinking. And then, of course, that will turn into a belief system. Well, what happens when we have a belief? What happens when my identity, because your belief system is then tied to your identity. If I identify myself with being a healthy person, I'm going to take different actions. Literally, my body is going to do different things. Because now, when we're talking about the identity, we're talking about the subconscious, because the subconscious is what holds your belief systems. So if I've retrained my subconscious mind, now I've changed my identity. So let's say I believe I'm a healthy person. I'm going to take healthy actions. And I don't have to convince myself and say, oh, I need to go to the gym, I need to go to the gym. No, because now you're a healthy person. Once it becomes a part of your lifestyle, it's just something you do because it's who you are. I don't think about, oh gosh, I need to go to the gym and stuff like that. It's just, I make time for it. I just know it's always going to be a part of my life now because I identify myself as a healthy person. And the same thing happens with the richest people in the world. The ones that make tons of money, seems to come to them easily. It is because they carry a different identity. And because they have that identity, it changes how they show up. It changes how they walk, how they talk, and the actions they take. So I talked about this in one of my other videos because people were asking me, okay, well, how do you change the belief system? One of the fastest ways that I found that changes the belief system is when you work on your mindset, which is becoming aware of your thoughts that are going on in your mind, changing them while also changing your actions. Let's say I want to be healthier. Right now I'm sitting on the couch, I'm being lazy, I'm not eating good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start affirming to myself that I am a healthier person and that I'm going to take healthier actions. Not going to, but that I am doing that. And then while I'm working on my mind and changing my belief systems, I'm also going to take healthy actions. And maybe it's something simple. It can be something as small as drinking more water every single day, or deciding to eat more protein, or going on a walk. These little things are going to build momentum in the process of you changing who you are, literally changing your identity and changing how you show up. Same thing applies with your finances and, of course, your relationships. If you want to change your financial situation, you have to become aware of what got you where you are in the first place, or what's keeping you there. Maybe you're not terribly unhappy with where you are. Maybe you're just like, okay, I know I want to earn more than what I have right now. Okay, well, let's become aware of the thought processes, the belief systems, and then the actions that have got me to where I am right now. Okay, now what needs to change if I need to go to the next level? Because obviously, if we don't change anything, then we're insane to expect a completely different outcome, right? We have a couple more questions over here from YouTube. Your feet can't take you where your mind won't go. Exactly. I think a lot of people forget, because we live in a physical world where we see what we see in front of us. We get distracted by the tiny percentage of what we can see. But we forget that we also live in a world where we only see like a small percentage. Most of what exists around us is energy. Everything is vibrating and everything has a frequency. So to try to change matter, Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot. If you want to learn more about this specifically, read some of Joe Dispenza's books. We see something and we are like, okay, this is a physical thing, right? It looks so physical. But 99% of this is empty space, which means it's energy and frequency. So if we really want to change our life, then we need to understand that 99% of what's going on is in the unseen world, in the energy world. Then it has to do with thoughts and belief systems, which is why we have to understand this if we really want to make our lives easier. Because we can change, and you can do it with the old paradigm, which is matter to matter. What does that mean? We try to force everything just with action only. That only gets you so far. Is it going to work? Yes, but it's going to take you way longer. And most of the time people run in roadblocks and give, because it's very challenging to do it that way. Or you can do it the smart way, which is combining the spiritual with the physical. And that is where you understand that your mind and your thoughts are in co-creation with, obviously, the results that you get in your physical world, right? So when we can do both of these things, which is changing the mind and the beliefs and the thoughts, while also taking the corresponding action, now you're going to be a powerhouse. And now you're going to get results 10 times faster, if not even faster than that. It's going to seem like magic, but it's not magic. It's just now you finally understand the rules of the game. Now you're working with life instead of against it. That's why you need to understand universal law, because those are things that we're not taught in school, and most people don't learn this until they're older, or they don't learn it at all. And then they just struggle, and maybe they don't struggle, but they live for the most part with maybe less than they could have had if they would have understood this stuff. I think we need to renew, I'm reading another comment here, guys. I think we need to renew our minds with the word of God, the Bible, so we can align our identities to God's highest purpose for our life. Yep, and everyone's going to have their own version of what that looks like, right? Whether you want to use religion or whatever it is. To me, the word doesn't matter. It matters the belief system behind it and the energy behind it, because the essence comes from the same place. Yep. Exactly. Be the energy you want to attract. Exactly. So, how does this relate with building a life that you want? Like I said in the beginning, of course, you have to become aware of what it is that you want first. And I want to explain something else that has to do with desire, because I think a lot of people confuse what true desire is. A lot of people are in this space of desiring, let's say, new cars and a lot of material things, and that's completely okay and amazing, right? Because that's something that you can move toward. But here's another interesting part of this. The more that you work on your traumas and your experiences that have taken you away from your true essence, meaning when you start to eliminate the fears and the limiting beliefs from your subconscious, you actually start to get more clear on what it is that you really, really want. Because a lot of people go through this life chasing things, like I said, that they think that they want, but it's not what they actually want. It's something that they think is going to make them feel better, because most of the time they're escaping the negative feelings that they're dealing with every single day. Let me give you an example. I'm sure we've all seen them, right? The people on Instagram are obsessed with material things. I'm talking about people that are never satisfied. It's always, I need the best, the nicest, the most shiny objects. Keeping up with the Joneses, and it's just never enough for them. That is not coming from a pure place of desire. They think it is, right? Oh, I can't wait to get my next Lamborghini. I can't wait to get my next Rolex or the next prettiest girl or whatever it is, right? People think that that is what they want, but that's not actually what you want. You are escaping something deeper that is unfulfilled. And how do we then discover what it is that we really want? Well, you have to do the inner work. You have to do the work on yourself to start asking yourself deeper questions. Start doing self-reflection work, because otherwise you can go your entire life chasing stuff, material things, thinking that that is the answer to you feeling better. And like I said, this is a double-edged sword, because it's not that it's wrong or bad to want material things and to move toward nice stuff, right? Even luxuries. But it is a problem when it's a never-ending pit and it becomes something that can be self-destructive. Because a lot of people, once again, they get into this space where they are so obsessed with getting the next thing that they lose track of what's actually important. And that is the character and the person that you are on the inside. And without having a connection, of course, to your spirituality, right, and your connection to something bigger, you can lose touch with what is really important. And I think that's where we have this dualistic experience in this world, where we have to learn that it's not only physical and it's not only spiritual. We're here to bridge the two. And in order to do that, we have to, aware of it, because if not, then we may, find ourselves in chaos and not know why, or find ourselves stuck and not know why, or chasing things our entire life for this idea that when we get something else, then we're going to finally feel happy and peace. But the truth is, you don't need any of that stuff to feel joy and peace. You know how I know that? Because when you travel and you go to third world countries and you see people who are happier than people who have everything. Explain that. How is there people that are starving with literally the bare minimum, with bigger smiles on their face, more gratitude and more joy for life than people who have people who are billionaires that should have everything, right? They have all the cars, all the nice things, everything that people would contribute to some sort of idealized success. So it makes you question what really is success. Are we putting materialistic stuff as the answer to our happiness? Or are we understanding that it's not only about that? So that's very important to understand. And of course, this has to do with building a life, because I think that it's very important for us to get very clear on the life that we're building and why we're wanting to build it, instead of waiting until you build this whole castle that's not actually what you want. And then once you're done building it, you're like, oh crap, this isn't what I wanted. Same thing in relationships. In fact, I think it's more common in relationships. People choose partners based on fear, loneliness, and trauma bonding, and not from genuine connection, compatibility, and similar vision. That's a problem. Why? Because if you grow or choose to, at some point in your life, get into self-growth or whatever it is, right, and you're on that path, there's a chance that the person that you're with, hopefully they grow with you, right? Of course, that would be the ideal situation. But the problem is then that, are we choosing people and situations from a higher space, or are we choosing it from fear? That's basically what it comes down to. Bottom line. Are we choosing from fear, or are we choosing from genuine desire? Genuine desire is not chosen from fear. So if we're choosing relationships out of loneliness, then we probably need to take some time to overcome that before we then choose a partner. Right? Same thing with everything else. And I understand there are places and times where people are not in the best of situations, let's say financially, right? And then they have to take a job based out of desperation, right? But once you get yourself out of that place of desperation, then you can make a better decision, right? Then you can reassess. But making a commitment, a lifelong commitment to a job, to a person, or to anything from a place of fear, not a good idea. So those are just kind of general rules of thumb and understanding how to become more clear on what it is that, one, you actually want, so that your energy and efforts that you're using to build your life is not built on shaky foundation. Because when you build a life on fear and loneliness and escaping the life you have, the foundation is not solid. Because you're running from something instead of moving towards something you actually love. They are different energies, even though sometimes that can be hard for people to identify. Even myself, I know that it can be challenging. Okie dokie, let me go ahead and check Instagram really quick and see if we have any questions. Hello, over on Instagram. Hello. Hello, Laura. Okay, I don't see any questions yet, so we're good over there. Okay. Yeah, so let me go ahead and check my notes, just make sure I talked about everything. But I feel like for the most part, I talked about the basics, and that is becoming aware of what you want, making sure that it's not coming from a space of running from something because you're escaping, right? Are you wanting nice things because you actually enjoy luxury? You like nice stuff? Or is it because you think that everyone else around you is going to think you're cool? Because you want other people to see you as enough and successful and powerful. Do you see the difference? One comes from your actual desire, and one comes from you trying to prove something. Same thing with everything in life. Your money. Do you actually want to make, let's say, $100,000 a month? Or is that coming from a space of, I'll feel like a loser if I make less than that? Why? Right? Everything needs self-reflection. If you want to be happy, if you want to have peace. If not, keep doing what you're doing, right? If you're already happy, if you're already in a good place, sweet, keep on doing what you're doing. But if you're not, then it's probably time for some self-assessment and some reflection, right? Okay, let me go ahead and check here. Yeah, I think I touched on pretty much everything. We tied in business, we tied in relationships, and of course, lastly is health. And why I talk about these three pillars so much, which I should probably add in spirituality, because that's a whole nother part that is so important. Everyone should have a connection to spirituality, religion, whatever you want to call it. But I believe that the health of you as a human being, you need that connection to something higher, whatever it is that you believe in, right? Because that's where you're going to really connect deeper with yourself. And whatever avenue you choose to do that is fine, but that's a necessary part of health, because it's you, right? It could be simply having a spiritual practice of meditation, of getting quiet in your mind every single day, right? So I think that would be the four pillars, is the spirituality, right? And that you have your financial situation situated, and that you're in a place where you're not surviving, right? And of course, we need our health. If we don't have health, if you're sick, you have nothing. You would trade every dollar in the world to make yourself feel better if you were in bed sick every single day. And of course, lastly is our relationships, the people that we have around us, our connections, because that is such a huge part of fulfillment and what gives us genuine, I think, just connection and love and peace is something that really fulfills human beings at such a deep level. And social media is not enough. Just connecting through screen is not enough. You need in-person connection with real people who actually love you, who can give you the time and the care and the things that you deserve, because it really does make a difference. So those are the 4 pillars. And I talk about those so much because in order for us to find stability in our life and to find the joy, the peace, and the things that we're really seeking, we need some harmony there, some balance. Doesn't mean one of these areas has to be perfect, but they do have to be at least okay, right? Because if we're missing one of these areas, you're going to feel off balance and you're not going to be able to thrive. So if you want to be in a good place in your life with your mental health, your health, all these things, then we have to find some stability in all of these areas. So I hope that makes sense, guys. Let me go ahead and check the comments one more time, and then I'm going to head off. I have some other stuff I got to go do today. Okay, this person says, I make $46K a month and it doesn't bring me happiness. Being at peace with myself and demons is what brought the happiness. Exactly. And most people won't believe that until they make money, right? Because I've heard this from many, many people, especially from people who don't make enough money, right? And they're still struggling and surviving. They're like, yeah, that's easy for you to say when you're making all this money, right? But it's because they don't understand yet that they are actually in control of their emotional state, and their your mental happiness and peace is actually not as connected to your external situations as you think. And you're not going to know that until you have everything that you think you want. And then you're still left with yourself at the end of the day. You still have to control your mind and your thoughts. So that's the cool thing that you learn. And we have proof everywhere. Look at all of the artists, all the people that got everything that they thought they wanted in the world, and then they decided that they didn't want to be here anymore because it wasn't clearly the material things that was going to actually fulfill them. And I'm not going to pretend like being broke and living paycheck to paycheck is easy, because of course having money and being able to at least get by is definitely going to bring you some more peace. But more doesn't mean better. Getting yourself to a good place is the best. That's what I talk about, right? Foundational things. Financial independence, so you can live in a good place. Health doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a freaking fitness model. You just need to be healthy. You need to have energy. You need to have the strength to get through the day and feel good. That's it, right? You need to have good relationships, at least not toxic ones. At least find some people that can give you some good energy, some positivity. And then work on your spiritual health. Do something every day that's going to help help you have more positive thoughts. Maybe you listen to whatever it is that you do that gets you to a good place spiritually. Do that. And if you're good with these few things, then you're going to realize life's actually pretty good. And then if you choose to have some more goals here, some more goals there, sweet, awesome. But don't make the goal more important than how you feel. Don't make making $1 million or multi-million dollars so important that you sacrifice your health, your joy, your relationships, because you'll find out at the end of the day that it wasn't worth it, and that you probably made your life way more challenging, and it was basically for no reason. So anyways, I hope that was helpful for someone. Happiness is a choice. Great talk today. Hello. Someone says, yeah, start with spirituality. Exactly. And everyone's going to go through their own journey with that, but I really do think, I agree with you. I think that spirituality is the foundation. Because to me, I see our spirituality as a connection of who we are here. We're not a physical body. We are a spiritual being having a human experience. So you need to have an understanding of your spirituality and your connection to something higher if you really want to even understand yourself. So you're right. That's the foundation, right? And then, of course, those other things come into play, because one without the other, the table's fallen over. You need the pillars so that you can feel good and live in this world without feeling like you're drowning, or that you can never find true happiness and peace. So I'm going to go, guys. I got some more stuff I got to do today. I will be back again Monday No lives on Sunday for me. That is going to be my rest for the week, but I will be back again next week. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.